Okay, honors 11 for Wednesday, April 15th. So our previous assignment was to read the short story Arabe. Hopefully you didn't have any trouble finding that on Google Classroom. It's the whole collection of stories. So again, upload that to Notability so that way you can highlight things as you read and make notes. Or if you want to take some notes while you're listening to my lecture here, you can. So your task was to choose one of those foci that I provided for you. So is the character changed or unchanged? How does the setting have any effect on the story? What are some symbols maybe? And I'll go over that here in just a second. And then, of course, relationships between characters. All right. And your job was to find two pieces of evidence, aka quotes, that you'll use in the essay for today's assignment. All right, so just a very brief discussion of the story. Like I said, I'm not going to get into all the tiny little details that I know about. So I'll just make sure that I tell you what you need to know so you can understand it and put things together, because they're not hard to read, but they are kind of dense. They're hard to understand. Okay, so again, we have a boy, or at least an adult, looking back on himself as a boy. Okay, and he seems to have developed a crush on a neighborhood girl. Okay, which I assume she's maybe a couple years older than him. All right, I'm guessing again he's 11, 12, somewhere in that neck of the woods, and she's probably 14 or 15. We don't really know for sure. Okay, but the story starts out again. The first line is very important. Okay, North Richmond Street was a dead end, was blind, which means that the street is a dead end. And then you get a kind of description of his neighborhood, which seems to be kind of brown and run down, and we're probably in a working class neighborhood. So his life is pretty boring. Okay, so school routine, things like that. Probably doesn't have a lot of money, versus going to this place called Arabe, right? So again, the word Arab, sounds exotic and Eastern. So imagine that to, a poor white kid from, a working class neighborhood in 1904 Dublin. All right, this is exciting. It's like going to Disney World for him. Okay, and his goal is to hopefully buy something for his crush, because she can't go, or she makes up an excuse is more likely. Okay, so he's obviously, kind of torn for those few days or week before he's able to go to Arabe to get her something, and he pretty much kind of poo-poos everything else in his life. Oh, school is stupid, my friends are stupid, I'm in love, right? I'm going to go to Arabe and I'm going to get this girl a present, and she's going to love me, right? Okay, so unfortunately, his uncle, he lives with his aunt and his uncle. We don't know why. Okay, it's not incredibly important, but they seem to be nice people. But his uncle comes in late from work. It's Saturday night. This is when most working class Irishmen would be paid, because they would have Sunday off. And most of them, not most of them, but a lot of them, I guess, would go to the pubs after they got paid. So that's what happens to our uncle. He kind of stumbles in, I think darn near 9 o'clock or something like that. Okay, Arabe closes, I believe, at 10. All right, so his uncle gives the boy about $10. Okay, but you got to think about this. He's got to get to the place first. Okay, so that's going to take up about $1.50. Okay, and then of course he's got to come home, so that's going to cost him about $1.50. All right. And then in his hurry to get there, he goes in a more expensive entrance, right? And the place is only going to be open for about another 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, so he stupidly, of that money he has left, pays $5 to get in. Okay, so that leaves him with about $2, okay, to buy his crush something nice, which of course he can't afford. All right, so the last thing, and this is what kind of triggers his epiphany. So again, be on the lookout for those. In this one, it's the very last lines, okay, where he looks up and, considers himself a creature of vanity. But the lady at the stall, her conversation with those two men triggers for him that the girl in the neighborhood, his crush, was just being nice. She says, oh, that'd be nice if you get me something, So he takes that literally, but really she was just kind of blowing him off. Kind of like the lady in the stall in the last part of the story is doing with the two dudes who are essentially kind of hitting on her or harassing her. Okay, so that triggers our young man's or our character's kind of realization that, oh man, she doesn't really like me. She just did that to be nice. Okay, so hopefully, if you have any other questions, please send them my way. But I'm trying not to get too far in the weeds here with all the crazy cool stuff that's going on in all these stories. All right, so your assignment for really just this week, I talked to, we had a meeting with the English department yesterday and talked with Mr. Edwards, and he told us some things. So hopefully I'm going to try to limit you to just kind of one medium-sized assignment each week here going forward as we read these stories. We're going to do the same thing every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, okay? So you can kind of breathe a little easier knowing what's coming your way. I'm going to give you a story on Tuesday. You're going to pick a foci, choose some evidence, and then the next day write an essay, and then the next day you'll just revise it, change some things, and then I'm going to have you do something else just real quick. Okay, just ask me a couple of questions that maybe you didn't understand about the story, okay, particularly. All right, so what we're going to do is just a thesis and go. One paragraph, double space, please. This will be put in as a quiz grade because pretty much everything I've done so far is a homework grade. Okay, so take your time, and then you're going to have the opportunity to revise it and fix things. All right, so take your time, try to just do the things we've been working on, all year, and definitely all semester after the Pride and Prejudice paper. Okay, so the first sentence, hence the name Thesis and Go, should be a thesis that argues based on your foci. All right, so the setting in Arabe. The setting in Arabe, I don't want to say, represents the boy's dreams of escaping his boring life. Okay, so that would be an example of a thesis statement. It's got the title of the story in there, which needs to be in quotation marks. Talks about the boy, and it includes the foci, okay, the setting. All right, or you could say, the boy in Arabe is changed after his journey to Arabe. Okay, so changed or unchanged, the boy, Arabe, etc. Okay, so obviously Arabe, the place, you don't put in quotation marks, just the title of the story. So do as we've done all year: idea, evidence, explain, idea, evidence, explain, and then end with a summary sentence that kind of wraps up your argument. So a total of just 8 sentences. Okay, but you absolutely must use 2 quotes, okay, from the story correctly and also cite correctly. All right, so just Joyce, page number, all right, is all you need to do there. Okay, so again, if you got any questions specifically about maybe what you're trying to argue and you want to make sure that you're right, just let me know, send me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, see you guys.